Alright, welcome to video 1 of this instructional video series. In this first video, I'm going to show you real quick how I speckled the samples for these experiments. This is a pretty basic and most importantly pretty inexpensive speckling technique. We're describing it in more detail as well as all the pieces and parts that you need for it in the paper that I guess you've read if you made it to this video. Alright, first of all, I'm going to have a couple of cardboard pieces here that I'll use intermittently. Also, I'm wearing a lab coat and gloves, which I recommend you do as well, because it's somewhat of a messy process. And then finally, I don't want my nice workspace here to be speckled, so I'm going to cover this here with paper towel to avoid everything getting ink on it. Alright, so the very first thing I do is I have this cardboard piece and I'm putting my sample on here. You see the sample here. I've actually already speckled the back of it, so that's why you can kind of see the dark shadow through it. But for illustration purposes, this will be perfect. The first thing I do after putting the sample on the cardboard here is I'm going to mask the sort of clamping area. That's not absolutely necessary, but you don't need a speckle pattern there, and it's nice to have a clean clamping area so you don't get the ink on your device. I'm going to do this here. You can use any tape to do this. I'm using the tape we have available here in the lab. Alright, the next step is I'm actually covering sort of the edges around my speckle area with cardboard, because these ink drops, they can really fly anywhere. So to avoid this, I'm just putting this sort of around my sample. I hope you can still see it, to prevent ink getting everywhere. Alright, so I have a little weight boat here. You can use anything really to store the ink. This is just something that I had handy. And here's the ink we're using. So this is the Norris number 199 black. I'm listing that part as well as where to order it in the table that comes with the publication. Alright, you can see this obviously is ink. And I'm just adding some of the ink here to the sway boat. We don't have that much left. This should be enough for now. And I'm using an additional cardboard piece to actually kind of dry the toothbrush that I will be using to apply the speckle pattern. After each stroke, I found that that minimizes sort of the large ink patterns that I'm creating. Alright, so first thing is I apply ink to my toothbrush. I take some of the ink off, and then I take my thumb and brush over the toothbrush like this, and you see we're applying a speckle pattern. So you apply this until you don't see any more speckles creating that or occurring. That means that you ran out of ink. So I distribute some more ink into my weight boat here, and I do this iteratively. I would suggest you don't get impatient. You continue in this pattern, and in my experience, that creates a really nice speckle pattern. Hopefully you can see here how the speckles become denser. It is always surprising to me how dense the speckles need to be in the end, but having done this about a dozen times now, I can tell you that you need a bunch more speckles. So I continue doing this process. And also, to be very clear, I sort of very empirically determined this process, so if you come up with a better way, there's a good chance there's a better way. Be creative, just make sure that you don't apply this to your one sample that you have before you figure out how to do it ideally. Alright, and I'm going to just continue doing this. And you see the speckle pattern we apply becomes denser and denser. So in my experience, the speckle pattern will suffice. At the end of this process, you may want to leave the sample as it is here for about, I don't know, I usually wait about half an hour. The ink itself has instructions, says it dries within minutes. You'll experience and experience yourself, I guess, as to how long you have to wait. But after you're done, you basically take the masking tape off, and then you have clean clamp areas and a speckled sample. Alright, good luck with that, and shoot me an email if you need any help. Appreciate it much. Goodbye.